The deep space station floated silently between two moons, its engines humming like a sleeping beast waiting to be woken. Jake Rylan, a human engineer, stepped out of the shuttle, his boots thudding against the cold metal floor of Dock 12. His face tired, his eyes sharp. As always, he was not here for fun. He was here to fix something dangerous. The station had reported a mysterious fuel leak for over 3 days. No one could find where it was coming from. The crew blamed faulty pipes, but Jake had fixed enough ships to know when something was off, and this was not normal. He entered the fuel bay where the smell of burnt metal and heavy chemicals filled the air. Everything looked fine, clean, no signs of spills or broken lines. The gauges showed the fuel dropping slowly every hour, yet the tanks were sealed tight. He ran diagnostics again. Nothing came up, no errors, no faults. At midnight, while others rested, Jake sat in the dim control room, staring at the fuel logs. The numbers made no sense. Every hour exactly 5% disappeared. He rubbed his eyes and leaned back, sighing. This kind of thing didn't just happen. It was like the fuel was being stolen. But how suddenly? He heard something, a soft metallic clink from the far end of the bay. He froze and leaned forward. The cameras showed nothing but shadows and pipes. He grabbed his small flashlight and headed down the corridor toward the sound. The lights flickered above as he stepped closer to the tanks. Then he heard it again, a soft sucking sound, like someone drinking through a straw, but faster and deeper, like it came from a creature, not a man. He turned the corner and shone the light around. Nothing was there, but the fuel tank shimmered like it was sweating. And then movement. Something darted behind a pipe. He aimed the light and saw her. She was crouched, low, her skin glowing faintly, blue, her hair long and dark like space. Her eyes wide, glowing yellow and full of hunger. Her mouth touched the fuel pipe, and she was drinking it, her lips glowing with the fuel's reflection. Jake stepped back, shocked, his mind racing. She looked half human, half alien, her body slim, her limbs smooth and strong. She saw him and froze like a wild animal caught in the light. For a second they both just stood still, not breathing, not blinking. Then she moved fast, too fast. She vanished into the shadows, like a ghost, leaving only the faint scent of fuel behind. Jake ran after her, shouting, "Hey, stop! Who are you? What are you doing?" But she was gone. The air was empty again, like she had never been. There Jake stood alone, heart pounding, sweat on his forehead, his flashlight shaking in his hand. He looked at the pipe she had touched. There were faint marks like lips or fingers, and the pipe was slightly warm, like something had really been there. He returned to the control room and locked the doors. He checked the security feed again. Still no sign of her. It was like she didn't exist. No logs, no images, no record of entry. He knew what he saw, but no one would believe him. A glowing girl who drank fuel the next morning, he told the captain, but the man laughed and said, maybe Jake needed rest or a drink. No one else had seen anything, and no alarms had gone off. They told him the leak was probably a hidden valve, nothing more. But Jake knew something strange was happening. He had seen her eyes glowing in the dark, her lips on the fuel pipe, and the way she looked at him, not with fear, but like she was caught, like she didn't want to be seen. That night, Jake set up a motion-triggered camera near the tanks and waited. He didn't sleep. He didn't move. He just stared at the screen and waited for the ghost girl to return. And as the lights dimmed and the ship fell silent, the fuel tanks whispered again, and a soft shimmer moved behind the shadows. She was coming back, and this time he would be ready. The space station was quiet again, but Jake could not sleep. His mind kept thinking about her. The glowing girl, the one who drank fuel like water. Her face haunted his thoughts, her eyes glowing yellow, like fireflies trapped in the dark. He had placed a hidden camera near the main tank and set the trigger to alert him if anything moved. It was past midnight when the screen flickered and the alert beeped, soft but clear. Something was there again, moving near the pipes, but slower this time, like it knew it was being watched. Jake leaned closer, holding his breath. The figure appeared on screen, soft blue light shining from her skin. Just like before, she knelt near the fuel pipe, her hands thin and shaking. She looked weak, like she had not fed. In dice, she touched the metal gently, then placed her lips on the pipe again, and drank slowly, her eyes closed like she was in pain, or maybe relief, like she needed the fuel to survive. She stopped suddenly, and looked straight at the camera, not afraid, not angry, but sad, like she knew someone was watching. Jake ran to the bay, but by the time he arrived, she was gone again. Only the faint shimmer of her light remained in the corner of the floor. A tiny drop of glowing liquid left behind like a tear from her body. Jake took the liquid to the lab and scanned it. It matched the chemical signature of the fuel, but something was different. It was partially digested, like it had passed through a living system, but her species was unknown, not listed in any galactic records or databases. She was not a thief. She was not a ghost. She was something else, something never documented. Not approved, not authorized to be on this ship, an alien passenger who should not exist. The next night, Jake set a new trap, he rewired the fuel valve to trigger a containment field. As soon as it sensed biological contact, he waited in the shadow's heart. Racing, every noise made him flinch, every whisper of gas made him turn. Then she came again, slow and soft like wind. Moving through mist, her steps, silent, her skin glowing. She reached out and touched the valve, and the trap snapped with a burst of energy. The field lit up around her, trapping her in a glowing blue cube. She screamed once, not loud, but sharp, like something breaking inside her. She dropped to her knees, her body shaking like she was freezing or burning. Jake rushed forward, scared he had hurt her. She looked up, her eyes full of fear and pain and something else, something like trust, please, she whispered. Her voice soft and musical, almost human. I did not want to harm, I just needed to feed. Without it, I cannot live. I will fade away. Jake knelt beside the containment field, staring at her. Her hair floated in the air like silk in water, her skin flickered between blue and pale, her hands curled around her stomach like she was starving. What are you? He asked, not with anger, but wonder. Who are you? Why are you here? She looked at him, her glowing eyes dim now like dying stars. I am not from this place. I was born in the black between stars. My kind feeds on what your ships burn. Your fuel is our food, and your fire keeps us alive. Jake felt cold, her words strange, but they made sense. She was drinking fuel because it was her only way to survive, and now she was dying in front of him because of what he did. He pressed a button and lowered the field. She gasped and fell into his arms, weak but breathing, her body warm like the engine's heat. She looked at him again and said softly, I thought you would turn me. And Jake stared at her, then shook his head. No, I need answers, and I think you're the only one who can give them. She smiled just a little before closing her eyes and fainting in his arms like a leaf drifting down in the dark. He carried her to the medbay, hidden from the others. No one could know, not yet. He connected her to a fuel line, just a little drop, and watched as color returned to her skin, like a dying light flickering back to life. Outside, the stars moved slowly, but Jake knew everything had changed. Someone was on his ship, someone powerful and strange, and she was just the beginning, because in the corner of the screen the camera blinked again. Another shimmer just like hers moved behind the pipes. She was not alone. Jake sat beside her, watching the lines of glowing fuel drip slowly into her arm. Her skin shimmered faint blue again, soft pulses of light moving under her skin, like waves under ice. She had not spoken in hours, but her chest rose and fell like a calm machine, sleeping and healing. He should have told the captain, should have sent her to security, should have locked her away and walked out clean. But something inside told him no, not yet, not when the truth smelled so strange, and the answers still hid in her breath. Ship's engines hummed outside like the heartbeat of a giant, the stars beyond the window moved quietly like they were listening to secrets spoken in whispers and fuel-fed. Suddenly she opened her eyes wide, and, glowing brighter than before, she sat up, fast, almost wild, and stared at him with panic. Her hand gripped his arm, and her voice cracked like glass breaking in soft pieces. Too long I waited, too little I drank, too late, I may lose form. Jake leaned in, his voice calm, his face close. You're okay, you're safe, I'm not here to hurt you. I want to understand. She blinked slowly, like trying to remember where she was then, said the words that made Jake's heart stop. This fuel is the only thing that tastes like home. He did not understand, not fully, but he felt the truth in her voice, like the gravity of a planet, pulling even when unseen. Her body needed the very thing that could explode this ship in seconds. She had been feeding on it in secret, starving in shadows because she had no choice. Jake asked, where are you from? What is your name? Who left you here? She looked down, her fingers twitching like they remembered pain. My kind was brought here for study. Long ago many died, some adapted, some escaped. I was small, I hid, I survived. He realized then she had not come to steal. She had been abandoned like old cargo, like forgotten waste floating in a world that never wanted her. She did not belong in the database because no one ever registered her. She had no name in their records because they never cared to give her one. Jake said softly, if you feed on this, how do you control it? Our fuel is dangerous, even touching it too long can kill a man. She nodded slowly. That is why I stay quiet. That is why I come only when dark speaks. That is why I drink little and run before your alarms. Scream. He looked at her arms, thin and marked with tiny burn lines like quiet battles. Lost and hidden, she had risked herself again and again to live one drop at a time. He stood up, pacing, his mind spinning. Like the ship's outer rings, he had choices. Now report her, and be safe. Help her, and be hunted. Lie to command, and maybe destroy his career or risk everything to help someone who had been used and thrown away like a tool. She whispered, you are kind, you glow warm, not like the others. I can feel it, your light does not burn. Jake looked back at her, and for the first time noticed she was afraid not of him, not of dying, but of being alone again, of being locked away, or spaced, or ignored, like before he walked to the terminal and turned off the external fuel monitors. No more reports, no more alerts, no more records of missing liquid. From now on he would control the logs himself. She watched him and tilted her head like a curious creature, not sure if this was hope or another trick. And Jake said, "If you trust me, I'll find a way to help you live without hiding." She smiled faint like sunrise on a frozen moon, and leaned back, her eyes soft again. Her voice barely a breeze. "Then I will tell you the secret. Your kind buried the one that made us run, the one that made your fuel taste like fire and life." Jake leaned forward, heart pounding. "Say it," he whispered. "Tell me what they did." She said only, "This your people made the fuel from us." And then she closed her eyes and fell into a deep, slow sleep, leaving Jake alone with a truth heavier than the stars, and a mission that had just turned into something far more dangerous than a leak. The words echoed in Jake's mind like a low-engine hum that would not stop. "Your people made the fuel from us." He sat still in the medbay, unable to move, unable to speak. The alien girl lay silent beside him, her body glowing softly, her breath even, but weak. She had said it without anger, without blame, only quiet pain, like a memory too heavy to carry but too deep to forget. Jake searched the ship's archive system, but found nothing. No mention of alien fuel conversion, no reports, no experiments. No proof. It was as if her kind had never existed, or had been erased, like old errors deleted from a log. But he knew what he had heard. He remembered the smell of the fuel, the shimmer of her skin, the way her body absorbed the chemical, like it was food. And he remembered something else, to a story told to him long ago during training, about an old war. A war over energy. Back then, humans had found a new way to create high-density fuel. It was secret technology only used in military zones, but the war ended, and the labs closed, and the formula vanished. Jake had always believed it was just military-grade synthetic compounds, but now he wondered, what if it wasn't synthetic? What if it was harvested? He looked at her again, her fingers curled, her chest rising slow. She was not a thief, she was a survivor of something humanity had buried. He checked nearby system maps, one asteroid base marked in red. No activity for years, but old records said it was once used as a black lab during the fuel wars, and more than that, it was only 3 hours away by shuttle. Jake made a decision. He rerouted the ship's engine diagnostics to trigger a false reactor alert if the system read failure. Command would approve a drift, stop giving him time to land and search. He told no one before he left. He went to her. She opened her eyes slowly. He said, "I need to know the truth. I think it's out there. I want to see the place where it started. Will you come with Mesh?" Stared at him unsure, then nodded once. "Yes, but you must be ready. They are still there, not like me, hungrier, broken, twisted by pain." They took the small shuttle in silence. The stars passed quickly like blinking lights. As they neared the dead rock, Jake landed on the dusty surface. The base was there, buried, covered in black ice, and silence. The entrance groaned. As it opened inside, everything was still: broken lights, old machines, glass tanks, shattered, burn marks on the walls. Jake moved through the halls. Slowly the alien girl followed. She walked slower now, looking around like someone returning to a grave. "This was where they made us," she said. "And where most of us died." Jake found the old control room logs, still blinking. He accessed the terminal, and then he saw it: video logs, scientists injecting glowing liquid into alien bodies, testing reactions, marking results, failed, stable, extracted. He watched one video, a small alien girl strapped to a table, her body flickering, fuel drained from her spine. He slammed the screen off. He turned to her. She stood still, silent, eyes wide with sadness. He asked, "Why keep feeding on it? If it hurts you, why not escape?" She said, "Because it is all we have. Without it we die slow. Without it we forget. Even pain is better than fading." Then he heard Italo growl from the shadows. Another figure stepped into the light. Tall eyes, glowing red skin, cracked like glass. It looked like her, but not whole. It spoke in a deep voice. "Another human come to finish the harvest." Jake stepped back. "Not here to hurt you. I'm here to stop it." To help, the figure hissed. "You are too late. Your kind never stopped. They only hid the truth." The girl stepped forward. "Please, he is not like them. He saved Mitha." Creature paused, eyes narrowing. Then it said, "If you mean it, you will prove it." Jake stood silent, heart pounding. He had come for answers, but now he had walked into a room full of ghosts, and one mistake could make them all burn. The air inside the old fuel lab was thick like poison, mixed with old memories. Every wall held the screams of the past, every step Jake took echoed like a mistake waiting to happen. The alien girl beside him breathed slow, her glow dim, her fingers shaking, not from fear, but from memory. The creature in front of them, taller than her, scarred by time, Eyes like burning metal did not blink, did not move. Its voice deep like falling rock said, "Again, if you truly mean peace, you must prove it." Jake kept his hands open, showed he carried no weapon, but he knew words would not be enough, not in a place like this where trust had been melted with fire long ago. The creature pointed to a broken pot in the corner. Shattered glass, old blood still dried across its edges and a cracked chain hanging loose from the floor. "This one was mine," it said. "Your people tested fire on me. Your people drained the light from my sister and turned her into fuel for war." Jake felt the floor shift beneath his thoughts. The alien girl beside him closed her eyes, like she could still hear the cries from years ago. He said softly, "Not all of us knew, not all of us agreed. I was just a boy when this happened. I never touched this place, never saw this truth until now." The creature walked forward slow, step by step, until its face was inches from Jake's. Its breath cold, its eyes burning, and said then, "You will help us finish what your people started, not with pain but with freedom. You will help us leave this rock and never return." Jake asked, "How many are you still alive?" "7. It said 7 of us left in pieces, in shadows, in hunger." Jake looked at the broken lab around him, the flickering lights, the wires still humming weakly. He could see the outlines of old cells' doors. Melted tanks dry. These were not soldiers, they were survivors, and he knew deep inside if he left them here again, they would die. Forgotten again. He said, "I'll take you all back to my ship. I'll hide you. I'll find a place where you can live without running." But the alien girl turned quickly, her voice sharp. "If you take us back, they will track us. Your ship is tagged, your mission logged. If command sees us, we will be hunted." Again Jake thought hard, his hands curled. He knew she was right. The ship had scanners, monitors, every call, every jump logged to central command. Even his fake reactor alert would not last long. Someone would notice, someone would come. He said then, "We need a ghost ship, a forgotten one not tracked, one we can fly ourselves." Creature looked toward the lower tunnels, past the frozen fuel tanks, past the broken floors, and said, "There is one deep under this lab. We were tested on it. Once we broke free and left it there too. Afraid to try." Again Jake nodded. "Lead the way. We'll fix it together." They moved through the tunnels, cold wind blowing through holes in the steel walls. Old whispers following like shadows, trying to pull them back. The deeper they went, the darker it got, until only the glow from the alien girl's skin lit the way. Then they found Ita. Small cruiser covered in dust, but untouched by fire, sealed tight, its surface cracked, but strong, its core still pulsing with quiet energy. Jake stepped inside the control room. The screens blinked, weak but alive. He sat down, his fingers flying across the console like it was part of him. Code flowed, light returned, and the ship slowly breathed again. He looked back at them and said, "We can make this work. I can bring supplies. We can jump away from this system. But you need to trust me fully. No more hiding, no more testing." Metha creature stepped forward, placed a single hand on Jake's shoulder, and said, "If you give us this chance, we will never forget it. But if you betray us, we will never forgive it." Jake said, "Fair enough." The alien girl smiled for the first time since they met. Not because she was safe, but because for once she had a path forward. Not just a corner to hide in. But back on the main ship, alarms were starting to blink, commands were waking up. Someone had noticed Jake's signal had gone dark. Someone had seen the engine report, and now the hunt had begun. Jake had made his choice. Now he had to fight to keep it. The cruiser floated in the underground dock, like a sleeping giant half awake, its old engines humming like a tired breath. Jake wiped sweat from his forehead, his fingers covered in black. Dust wires tangled around his feet. Power systems were almost ready and time was almost gone. He looked over his shoulder at the alien survivors, 7 of them now gathered in silence. Each one glowing faint blue, some stronger, some barely standing, all watching him with eyes full of silent hope and deep old pain, the kind of pain that never left. But outside that hope, a storm was coming back. On the main ship, orbiting above the moon, a red light blinked on the command deck. Captain Hellner stared at the screen, eyes narrowed. Mission logs showed a fake reactor alert sent by Jake. No follow-up, no check-in, and now silence for hours. He slammed his fist on the console, ordered a recon team prepare the strike shuttle, scan for hidden signals, send a pulse sweep across the moon's surface. If he's alive, we bring him back. If he's not, we find out why. Inside the underground cruiser, Jake felt the wave hit like a cold wave in his head. The ship's sensors picked up the pulse sweep, a coded signal, human military grade, silent but sharp like a knife, searching for shadows. He turned to the alien girl, her glow stronger now, but her hands still trembling. "They found us," he said. "They're coming, and they won't ask questions." She looked up, her voice low. "Her kind will not run again. Not this time, not after so long." Jake nodded. "We finish the launch now, or none of us leaves." They worked fast, rewiring jump drives, feeding the ship with backup fuel cells. The girl reached for a tank and her fingers shook. then froze. Her glow shifted, her breathing changed, her body began to pulse. Fast Jake turned to her, eyes wide. Something was wrong. Her skin flickered between blue and bright red, her pupils shrinking. Her mouth opened like a silent scream. She fell to her knees, her voice shaking. I can't stop it. I waited too long. I drank too little. My body is taking more than it should. That. Others backed away, whispering in their own tongue. She's going critical. One said she's absorbing too fast. She ignited. Jake knelt beside her, trying to help, but her body burned hot like engine coils overheating. She grabbed his hand, her voice desperate. You must lock me down. If I lose control, I will destroy all of you. She hesitated 1 second too long. Her body flared, a sudden flash of light. The walls shimmered, the fuel tanks shook, but she forced herself. Still, teeth clenched, skin cracking, her voice barely a breath. I can still hold it, but not for long. The strike team landed above the moon's surface, boots hitting dust scanners, sweeping guns locked. One soldier found the lab entrance, melted doors, broken heat still fresh. He tapped his cums, there, here and there, not alone back in the cruiser. The engine roared online, the jump drive lit up systems. Green Jake looked at the girl, still glowing too bright, her body shaking like a flame in wind. If we don't jump now, we die here, he said. If we do, you might tear the ship apart. She looked up through burning eyes, then smiled and said, I'd rather burn free than live in chains. Again the survivors took their places, strapped in, ready, eyes full of fire. Jake pulled the lever, and the cruiser lifted, dust flying, metal groaning systems howling above the surface. The strike team saw the explosion of dust and light as the old ship rose from the moon, like a ghost from a graveyard, engines burning hot with stolen fuel. They opened fire, but it was too late. The cruiser broke through the dust cloud, shot into the black sky. The stars spinning past the hull, heat alarms, screaming, the girl barely holding together. Her glow wild and unstable, but still alive inside. Jake gripped the controls, voice steady. Stay with me, we're almost there. The jump is close, just a few more seconds. She whispered, I feel the stars again, and her glow softened, just for a moment, like a candle flickering in a storm. Then, with a burst of light, the ship vanished into hyperspace. Behind them, the strike team stood in silence. Dust settling, nothing left but broken lab doors, empty cells, and the sound of the wind. Jake had escaped, but the girl's hunger had not. The stars stretched around the cruiser like rivers of light folding through darkness. The ship shook from the jump drive's last push alarms, still blinking faintly, fuel cells nearly dry, hull plating cracked. Like old skin, but somehow still flying. Somehow still alive. Jake stood in the main bay, sweat on his face. His hands black with engine dust, his eyes locked on the alien girl, who lay in the center of the floor. Her skin no longer glowing, her breath slow and shallow like a candle's last flicker before it dies. The other survivors watched from the corners of the ship, silent, afraid, hopeful. Her body had burned too bright during the jump. The fuel inside her twisted too fast, too hot. She had kept them alive by nearly killing herself. She opened her eyes slowly and whispered, did we make it? And Jake knelt beside her, nodded, yes, we're out of their range, we're free but not safe. Yet the fuel is gone, and the ship needs power. We won't last another day. She looked around, her eyes tired but calm, then said, there's one way left, but it won't be easy. It won't be clean. Jake asked, what do you mean? And she answered softly, my body still holds enough charge to jump once more. If I release all of it, it might tear me apart, but it can carry the ship where you must go. Jake shook his head. No, there must be another way. I didn't save you to watch you burn again. But she smiled and said, you didn't save me. You gave me a reason to choose, and I choose this. The survivors gathered around her. One placed a hand on her shoulder, another bowed their head, all of them glowing faint like stars dimming before dawn. And she said, my kind were made into fuel long ago, used not for life but for war. Let this last burn be ours, not theirs. Jake stepped away, fighting the tight feeling in his chest. He didn't cry, he didn't scream, but inside something broke and rebuilt itself all in one breath. She stood on shaking legs, walked to the core chamber. The ship lights followed her like they knew she was the heart now, the engine, the only spark left. She placed her hand on the power coil, her skin lighting up again, veins glowing brighter and brighter until the walls themselves began to shine. The survivors closed their eyes. Jake watched in silence. She looked at him one last time, eyes soft and bright, and said, thank you for seeing me not as fuel but as life. Then she released it. A wave of blue light exploded through the chamber. No sound, just heat and light and memory. The ship shuddered, then calmed. Engines caught power, hummed strong. The jump drive spun once more. Jake felt the ship move, stars bending again around them, the world spinning but steady. When the light faded, she was gone. No body, no echo, only the silence that follows. Great Nesta cruiser jumped into a quiet sector, far from war, far from command, far from anyone who would hunt them, the survivors. Stepped onto a green planet, days later, touched soil for the first time in decades, their skin no longer flickered with fear. Jake sent a message to the stars, not to command, not to Earth, but to anyone listening, a warning and a promise. The fuel we used was born from stolen lives. We can never undo it, but we can stop it from happening. Again the stars did not answer. They listened years later. Children would ask why ships no longer used that fire, why new engines hummed instead of roared. An old man would whisper about a man who ran away with the last fire girl, and gave her one last choice, and somewhere in the stars her lights still burned, not in tanks, not in war, but in memory.